Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear two friends, Nancy and Fiona, catching up with each other. First, you will have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
Hello, Fiona. I haven't seen you for ages.
Hi, Nancy. It must be 2 years, I think.
Has it been that long? It seems like yesterday that we were regularly catching up with each other on Friday mornings at that cafe around the corner from you.
Yes, I remember our chats at Cafe Bellissimo over a nice hot coffee and cake. Do you still work part-time or are you busier now?
Well, actually, since I saw you last, I've had a baby girl who's with her grandmother at the moment, so I'm free to pay bills and do grocery shopping. What about yourself? What are you up to these days?
Well, actually, I've started my own business, so I'm pretty busy. I'd call it full-time work myself, although the hours are very flexible.
Wow, that sounds really fascinating. What sort of business is it?
Well, we were initially going to open a shop, but we thought it would be easier to sell our product online. And a market stall would have been too hard to manage. We also thought it would be a great idea to sell not just in Perth, but all over Australia as well.
So what do you sell?
We're selling children's costumes from around the world.
Interesting. How did you come up with the idea?
As you know, Perth is such a multicultural society. At my children's school, there are so many immigrant children. Many of the families find it difficult to get traditional things from their culture, including clothes for special celebrations. With our extensive business travelling over the years, we have made numerous contacts in many countries.
To look at questions 7 to 10.
So how many countries' costumes do you sell?
At the moment, I have a good range of countries. I have access to 10 from Africa and similarly from Asia with 10 nationalities. I have slightly more from the Americas with 13 and more again from Europe with 25. Unfortunately, I only have 6 for the Pacific region, but I'm expanding all the time.
When do you find time to run your business?
Well, that's the problem at the moment. I have so many things to organise, but I don't have enough time to do everything.
Do you see an accountant or do you do your tax yourself?
I get all of my receipts and expenses together, but then I go to an accountant who fills in my tax return as it takes me too much time.
What about your website? You said that your company's growing all the time.
Yes, it's true that my website continually needs to be updated, but it only takes me a short time each week to do it. So that is one area I can manage myself.
Do you advertise your business anywhere? Where do your customers come from?
It's interesting you should ask. Most of my business is word of mouth, but I do hand out a lot of business cards. I get them done by the local printer, although I must admit that they are rather plain. I need to add a little colour when I get time to redesign them in the future.
Well, it's been great catching up with you and finding out all about your business. I'm very interested in looking at your website when I get home.
Here's my business card so that you can email me for our next get-together. Don't bother about a babysitter next time. Bring your daughter with you, as I'd love to meet her.
That sounds like a great idea. See you soon.
Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
The Overseas Students Club is organising a tour of the city to help new students to find their way around. You will hear the tour guide giving them a talk about what will happen the next day and some instructions as to what to do. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to our city. I hope that you will have an interesting and valuable experience with us. As you know, we're going on a tour tomorrow to show you some of the sites and the places of interest. So I would like to give you some instructions and some information to prepare you for tomorrow. It is important that we all meet at the same place at the same time. You should all be able to get into the centre of the city by train or bus from your homestay. We want to start our tour at 10 a.m. So you'll have to make sure that you leave home around 9:15 in time to arrive for us to start the tour at 10. If you are late, we will not be able to wait more than a few minutes, so I suggest that you take your mobile phone and have my number just in case. My number is 0482 557369. I will just repeat that so you can get it. 0482 557369. You can see Ms. Parker after the talk if you do not have her number, and she will be happy to provide it. It's good to have both our numbers just in case. Oh, and another thing, it is better to buy a one-way ticket because the tour will last for 3 hours and a return ticket lasts only for 2 hours.
Before the final part of the talk, to look at questions 16 to 20.
Now, we are meeting at the town hall. You should be able to make your way there from the bus or train stations, which are both in Flinders Street. It is only a short walk from both stations. If you're coming into the city by train, the town hall is straight ahead of you when you exit the station. Just walk up Collins Street and you will see it on the left after the traffic lights. If you come in by bus, you will need to turn right at the exit, then take the first street left, which is Collins Street. You will see the town hall on your maps. So if you have your maps with you, it's a good idea to mark the route now. Now, there will probably be quite a few people around in the city when you arrive, so it is important that we can find each other. Please don't go inside the building. We should all meet outside on the steps of the town hall to make sure we don't miss anyone. From there, we will be visiting a few places of interest. We will make our way to the library, which is in the same street. It will take us about 10 minutes on foot. It is a good library for students, so we'll be giving you about 20 minutes to have a look around at the facilities. That probably won't be enough time for all of you to join the library, so you'll have to come back at another time to do that. It might be a good idea to pick up a membership form before you leave. From the library, we will turn right into William Street, where you will see a cinema on the left. This is popular with the students, and it shows some interesting art house movies. On the way, you might want to check out what is showing there at the moment. Diagonally opposite the cinema is the art gallery. There will be time, about 15 minutes, for a quick look at some of the exhibits. You will probably want to return by yourself for a longer visit another time. From there, we will walk up to the main street, which is Wellington Street on your maps. It's around the next corner from the art gallery, and we'll show you some cheap but excellent restaurants, as well as cafes and bars, which I'm sure you will find useful in your free time. They are frequented by many of the students here, so I recommend that you come back later to sample the food and atmosphere. It is a good way to meet some of the local students as well. Well, I said that it would take about 3 hours. This is because we will be stopping at the park for a picnic lunch. The park is a 15-minute walk along the main street from the restaurant area. We will be supplying the lunch for everyone, so you won't need to bring anything. However, you will need to bring or buy your own drinks. If anyone has any special dietary requirements, please see me or Ms. Parker after this talk. Oh, and please make sure that you wear some comfortable clothes. Sensible walking shoes are advisable as you will be doing quite a lot of walking. It is also a good idea to bring some sunscreen and a hat, as the sun can be quite strong at this time of the year. Finally, although the tour is free, you might want to bring some extra money with you for drinks or souvenirs. Well, I hope you all enjoy the tour and get to know each other. I'm sure we will have a great day. Now, anyone who needs to see me?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear a discussion between two students, Rosie and Mike, and a university tutor. In the first part of the discussion, they're talking about a survey they have conducted on local entertainment. First, look at questions 21 to 26.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I think we can start straight away by getting Rosie and Mike to do their presentation. Would you like to start, Rosie?
Yes. Well, we've done a survey on local entertainment. Basically, we tried to find out how students feel about the entertainment in the town and how much they use it.
Yes, so we've called our project Out and About.
Yes, that's a good title. Out and About.
We wanted to find out how well students use the entertainment facilities in town, whether they get to see the latest plays, films, that kind of thing.
Now, we have our own facilities on campus, of course.
Oh, yes. We deliberately omitted those as we really wanted to examine outside entertainment in the town as opposed to on the university campus.
Actually, there were a lot of areas to choose from, but in the end, we limited ourselves to looking at 3 general categories: cinema, theatre and music.
Right.
OK, well, first of all, cinema. In the town, there are 3 main places where you can see films. There's the new multi-screen cinema complex, the old Park Cinema and a late-night Odeon.
So, if you look at this chart, in terms of audience size, the multi-screen complex accounts for 75% of all cinema seats. The Park Cinema accounts for 20% of seats, and the late-night Odeon has just 5% of seats.
As you probably know, the complex and the park show all the latest films, while the late-night cinema tends to show cult films. So, when we interviewed the students, we thought the complex would be the most popular choice of cinema. But surprisingly, it was the late-night Odeon.
Yeah, and most students said that if they wanted to see a new film, they waited for it to show at the park, because the complex is more expensive and further out of town, so you have to pay more to get there as well.
Yes, and that adds to the cost, of course, and detracts from the popularity, evidently.
Well, next, we looked at theatres. The results here were interesting because, as you know, there's a theatre on campus, which is popular, but there's also the Stage Theatre in town, which is very old and architecturally quite beautiful. And there's the large modern theatre, the Ashtop, that has recently been built.
So you just looked at the 2 theatres in town?
Yes, but the thing about the theatres is that there's a whole variety of seat prices. Also, the types of performance vary. So students tend to buy seats at both and like using both for different reasons. And if they want cheap seats at the Ashtop, they can just sit further from the front.
What we did find that was very interesting is that there are periods during the year when students seem to go to the theatre and periods when they go to the cinema. And we really think that's to do with budget. If you look at this graph, you can see that there's a peak around November, December when they go to the theatre more, and then a period in April, May when neither is particularly popular. And then theatre viewing seems to trail off virtually, while the cinema becomes quite popular in June, July.
I think you're probably right about your conclusions.
In the second part of the discussion, Rosie and Mike talk about different music clubs. Look at questions 27 to 30.
Well, lastly, we looked at music, and this time we were really investigating the sort of small music clubs that offer things like folk or specialise in local bands.
So not musicals as such?
That's right.
We looked at 3 small music venues and we examined the quality of the entertainment and the venue and gave a ranking for these. A cross, meaning that the quality was poor, a tick, meaning it was okay, and 2 ticks for excellent. First of all, the Blues Club, which obviously specialises in blues music. This was a pretty small place and the seating was minimal, so we didn't give that a very good rating.
No, we don't recommend that one, really.
Then the Sansu, which plays a lot of South American music. It was a big place, very lively, good performers, so 2 ticks for that one. The Pier Hotel is a folk venue, a good place for local and up-and-coming folk artists to play. Not the best of venues, as it's in a basement and a bit dark, but the quality of the entertainment was reasonable and the lighting was very warm, so we felt it deserved an average rating. Now finally, there's the Bald Rock Cafe, which features big rock bands and is pretty popular with students, and we enjoyed ourselves there as well, so top marks for that one.
And then, did you get any information from the students as to which of the clubs they preferred?
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecturer talking about dust storms. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36.
In the last lecture, we looked at the adverse effects of desert dust on global climate. Today, we're going to examine more closely what causes dust storms and what other effects they can have. As you know, dust storms have always been a feature of desert climates, but what we want to focus on today is the extent to which human activity is causing them. And it's this trend that I want to look at, because it has wide-ranging implications. So, what are these human activities? Well, there are 2 main types that affect the wind erosion process, and thus the frequency of dust storms. There are activities that break up naturally wind-resistant surfaces, such as off-road vehicle use and construction, And there are those that remove protective vegetation cover from soils, for example, mainly farming and drainage. In many cases, the two effects occur simultaneously, which adds to the problem. Let's look at some real examples and see what I'm talking about. Perhaps the best-known example of agricultural impact on desert dust is the creation of the USA's Dust Bowl in the 1930s. The dramatic rise in the number of dust storms during the latter part of that decade was the result of farmers mismanaging their land. In fact, choking dust storms became so commonplace that the decade became known as the Dirty 30s. Researchers observed a similar but more prolonged increase in dustiness in West Africa between the 1960s and the 1980s, when the frequency of the storms rose to 80 a year, and the dust was so thick that visibility was reduced to 1,000 meters. This was a hazard to pilots and road users. In places like Arizona, the most dangerous dust clouds are those generated by dry thunderstorms. Here, this type of storm is so common that the problem inspired officials to develop an alert system to warn people of oncoming thunderstorms. When this dust is deposited, it causes all sorts of problems for machine operators. It can penetrate the smallest nooks and crannies and play havoc with the way things operate, because most of the dust is made up of quartz, which is very hard. Another example. The concentration of dust originating from the Sahara has risen steadily since the mid-1960s. This increase in wind erosion has coincided with a prolonged drought, which has gripped the Sahara's southern fringe. Drought is commonly associated with an increase in dust-raising activity, but it's actually caused by low rainfall, which results in vegetation dying off.
In the second part, the speaker talks about the drying up of the Aral Sea. Look at questions 37 to 40 and complete the flowchart.
One of the foremost examples of modern human-induced environmental degradation is the drying up of the Aral Sea in Central Asia. Its ecological demise dates from the 1950s, when intensive irrigation began in the then Central Asian republics of the USSR. This produced a dramatic decline in the volume of water entering the sea from its two major tributaries. In 1960, the Aral Sea was the fourth largest lake in the world, but since that time it has lost 2/3 of its volume. Its surface area has halved, and its water level has dropped by more than 216 meters. A knock-on effect of this ecological disaster has been the release of significant new sources of wind-blown material as the water level has dropped. And the problems don't stop there. The salinity of the lake has increased so that it is now virtually the same as seawater. This means that the material that is blown from the dry bed of the Aral Sea is highly saline. Scientists believe it is adversely affecting crops around the sea because salts are toxic to plants. This shows that dust storms have numerous consequences beyond their effects on climate, both for the workings of environmental systems and for people living in drylands.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.